Chair would like to acknowledge Executive Secretary Paquito Ochoa Jr. for his presentation insofar as the proposed budget of the Office of the President is concerned. Secretary Ochoa, you may proceed, and good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, and thank you. We have a very brief presentation of our budget. And to start off, we'd like to present our budget for 2015 in the total amount of 2.567 billion pesos, which is 8% lower than the current year, or 223 million pesos lower, Your Honor. The comparison of the fiscal year 2014 current program with fiscal year 2015 budget proposal is as follows. The proposed budget for personal services for 2015 amounts to 636.91 million pesos, or higher by 28 million pesos, or 4.6% than in 2014. This corresponds to the actual requirements for salaries and other compensation benefits of all OP personnel as of December 31, 2013. The proposed provision of 1.910 billion pesos for MOOE is lower by 4.4%, or 87.7 million pesos if compared to 2014. The decrease is attributed to the reforms we have implemented, like in our procurement operations. We instituted bulk procurement of similar items, grouping and scheduling of procurement activities, and other cost-saving measures. The proposed capital outlay in the amount of 20 million pesos shall cover the funding requirements for continuing improvement of some of OP buildings and facilities. We have classified also the presentation of the budget as to according to cost structure, which means the budget is divided into operations and general administration support services. You will see in the slide, Your Honor, that for operations, we have dedicated of 78% of 2.567 billion budget, while 22% is for general administration support services. Now, to explain further, operations pertain to the DBM rule to put into the budget major final outputs, or categorize the budget as to the major final outputs. So we have four major final outputs in the Office of the President. One is for executive, the first one is for executive, technical, and management services. The second is for advisory services. The third one is legal services. And finally, the fourth is for presidential executive staff services. Meanwhile, for general administration and support services, it covers provision for auxiliary and support services for internal administration of the Office of the President proper, Your Honor. So that's the end of our presentation, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, as you do with the other departments, paparangkahin ko na kayo. Ang gulo at nalalabuhan kami sa MFO presentation ng budget ng DBM. Instead of presenting it in a clear manner that we can actually see the programs and projects, mas malabo yung presentation. Hence, these questions. Bigyan niyo ng copy ng budget. You have a copy of the NEP?
Yes.
If I may refer you to page 34, volume 2. And Secretary Deles, we will be doing roughly the same exercise, aside from the issues, of course. And the same is true with PMS, of course. Bigyan ng kopya. Ayan na. Page 34. Hindi mic na lang. Ano? Ano si Mike? Ano po itong 20 million na capital outlay? Saan po gagastusin to? Ano pong bibili nyo?
May I just...
Please. While she's
We have
looking,
some improvements on being done on some facilities, meaning the buildings, Your Honor.
can you submit to us where the 20 million will go, sir?
Yes, we have. We're trying to look.
While you're looking for it, may I ask, kailan matatapos yung dating PR? Hanggang ngayon, tarpaulin pa rin yun nandun, o tapos na ba?
Well, it's already done, Your Honor. It's just the some furnitures that we are waiting for. There are some delays due to procurement issues, Your Honor.
So, the 20 million?
Can we just be allowed to submit?
While she's looking for that,
Yes.
again, still on page 34. Issuance of presidential directives, special powers and authorities and clearances. I'm referring to program number 301-01-0001. 66,854 for PS. May I ask, sino exactly ang sinusweldohan natin for this particular MFO? Who are they?
Well, actually, Your Honor, just to clarify, we see the point of the chair, Your Honor. We have on our own prepared a listing of programs in the Office of the President by budget units, meaning to say we have specific budget units like the Office of the President proper. It's not here in the NEP, but we can provide the committee, Your Honor, of those
Because
details.
basically, the DBM divided the PS by
Yes.
MFO,
Yeah,
not by office.
not by office and not by program.
Precisely, it's by MFO. And that's where we get lost in the translation. That's why we're asking, sino-sino ba yung binabayaran sa MFO na to? I mean, who exactly are these people? What do they do and how was it divided up? Because I presume may particular na mga muka, pangalan, item at position to. PS eh.
Yes, Your Honor, we understand that. In fact, we have prepared a tabulation per MFO of where it is listed there which budget units belong to each and every major final output. So for instance, under MFO 1, Executive, Technical, and Management Services, we have the Office of the Deputy Executive Secretary for General Affairs. And we have an amount dedicated for that, for PS and MOE. So the others will also include the Philippine Commission for Visiting Forces Agreement.
So
So
meron
we have
kayong
an
breakdown?
enumeration of all the units. We can provide this.
By MFO.
Yes, by MFO.
Kindly submit that to us, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, another item there, Public Assistance and Information Services, MOE of 6,008,000. Sir, it's down to the last 8,000. I presume may itemized listing ba to o kasi kung isasara lang nyo, sana 6 million na lang o 5 million, 10 million. But it's down to the last 8,000, so I presume may specific at detailed breakdown to kung saan gagastos yung 6,008,000 pesos.
There is, Your Honor. There is.
Example, where would this... I'm asking these questions, Secretary, because ang presentation din ng DBM and because of COA regulations, ang MOE kasama doon, hindi lang yung bayad ng kuryente, hindi lang yung usual MOE, but also regular programs, di ba, of the executive branch. So you would like to get a peek of how it will look like. So for example, this 6,008,000, does this have a breakdown or is this a lump sum amount? But if it's a lump sum amount, why is it down to the last 8,000?
Well, we came up with all of these amounts based on specific items, Your Honor, specific expenditure items. And we total them and put it under this classification. We can provide all the
Yung
details.
pinanggalingan.
Lahat, yes.
Again, this is a matter of presentation of the
Yes.
budget. I presume you have a totally different way of looking at things. I doubt if you can implement the budget using this presentation.
Yes, well, that's the regulation that we followed, Your Honor. But nonetheless, we, as I said earlier, we have our own tabulation or configuration of how the budget should be
Kindly
presented.
submit that to us, sir.
Yes,
It
we
might
can.
be clearer.
Yes.
Because right now it's not from where we're
We can
coming
even
from.
submit the programs under which the OP intends to implement by 2015. Your Honor.
Please, sir.
Okay.
Next, sir. Ano nang nangyari sa PAOK, PAOCC, given the wave of criminality that's supposedly happening in and around Metro Manila? In the previous year's budget, there was still an item for PAOCC. In the 2015 budget, conspicuously, it is no longer there under the OP. Has it been abolished? Is it still in existence? Under what item is it found?
Yes, it's still there, Your Honor, but it's classified under Major Final Output Number 1, Executive, Technical, and Management Services. So as I said earlier, it is among those budget units that are enumerated under MFO Number 1. So we have a specific amount for PAOK, Your Honor.
Which particular program under MFO1 would PAOK be under? I have here issuance of presidential directives, policy development and formulation, strategic presidential interventions, oversight management on national security concerns, public assistance and information services, oversight of general government internal control systems, oversight and general government performance monitoring.
Under MFO Number 1, Your Honor, it's oversight management on national security concerns, Your Honor.
So the 588,734,000 found here would include, this is where you will find the Intel and Confi expenses?
That's true, Your Honor.
So yung
that's correct.
500 million ito is the 250, and the MOE actually is 88,734,000.
That's about it, Your Honor.
Would you consider actually specifying and including it, including the Office for Transnational Crimes, the ano pa ang opisina yun?
PCTC.
PCTC.
Yes, it's also here, Your Honor.
It used to be found in the budget too in previous years, but in this presentation nawala din siya.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true. But
you-
again, we can provide the expanded presentation of this NEP.
Kindly provide us with that, sir. Number 2, consider submitting an errata if indeed it might be necessary for you to specify, as in previous years, the PAOK and the PCTC. Dahil baka mamaya, ma-question pa ng COA, ba't kayo gumagastos para dun sa mga opisina yun na hindi nabanggit sa budget? It's your call, really. It's your
We'll
call.
comply, Your Honor.
Next, if I may proceed to page 36. Sir? Under MOE, yung bandang baba ng page. Traveling expenses. I presume this is where the Office of the President charges the President's travels.
That is correct. That includes foreign and domestic travels, Your
The
Honor.
President is known to be very frugal. May I know, just for the record, how much did the President spend or will the President spend in his how many day trip?
Almost 14
10
days. 12 to 14.
12, 14 days? I read an article that said 31 million. Is that accurate?
That is correct. For the European leg, Your Honor, there's another expense
For the US leg.
for the US leg.
So dito kinakarga yun
Yes, Your Honor.
for the Europe. Sir, binawasan nyo yung traveling expenses ng Presidente? Again, I'm only curious, actually, Secretary. From 336,245,000, you reduced it to 308,764,000. I'm just curious. It's down to the last 4,000 again. Where did that figure come from? I mean, I would have expected a 0-0, di ba? I mean, 308 million. Bitin pa 310 muna o 300 muna. But, why, where did that figure come from?
Well, I think there's a program that the DBM is using, Your Honor, so that when each and every department submits their respective proposals, they input it in that program,
And then it comes
and
out
then
this
it comes
way.
out this way. So that's the explanation I can.
So it's not zero-based really, meaning coming from you, you determine your expenses, you question every assumption, and then you submit it to the DBM. It's actually the DBM giving you a ceiling, and using a pro rata formula, they assign you an amount.
Well, it's not exactly that they assign us an amount. We propose an amount, and it's the DBM that determines how to balance altogether the entire budget for. that
So when you
will be
propose an
submitted.
amount, 0-0 yan, I presume, meaning 308, 310, 300, not down to the last 4,000 when you proposed it? I mean, just
Yes, Your Honor. We can check that.
kindly check that, sir. Now next, on confidential expenses, 250 million. Extraordinary and miscellaneous expenses, 18,439,000. Intelligence expenses, another 250 million. Under na to dun sa pinag-usapan natin kaninang PAOCC na MOOE.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, sorry, before I go there, ano tong awards, rewards, and prizes na 2 million? 2,114,000. Sinong pinapremyohan natin? $2,114,000. Submit us the breakdown. Sample lang, sir.
Well, this refers to tokens of appreciation for professional exemplary achievements of personnel, as well as for other retiring, some retiring employees, Your Honor.
This is a lump sum amount.
Yes, 2 million.
Again, sir, sayang yung space ba? I mean, it's down to the last 14,000 again. Hindi ba kayo nangihinayang sa space? We can lump all of these extra amounts together and put it in an item that you might need or use, especially given the restricted definition of savings. Now, extraordinary and miscellaneous expenses, 18,439,000. How would you distinguish this from confidential and intelligence funds? Anong pagkakaiba po niya sa confi? Anong pagkakaiba niya sa intelligence? Kaya kong dagdagan yung feeling. Yes, sir.
The extraordinary and miscellaneous expenses pertain to the reimbursable expenditures of officials with the rank of director up, Your Honor. So they are allowed up to a certain point some.
There are limits set by
allowance.
COA on that.
Yes.
Right. Now, what distinguishes, sir, confidential expenses from intelligence expenses? Ano pong pagkakaiba nun?
Well, I understand there's a definition in the the general provisions as proposed by DBM.
On how it will be used?
Yes, it's under section
74 ang confidential.
70 something.
74. 73 for intelligence funds and section 74 for.
Saan po kinukuha yung mga reward na binibigay kapag kami nahuhuling kriminal? Confi or intelligence?
Intelligence funds, because that's a purchase of information, Your Honor. that pertains to.
So, galing sa intelligence funds yan.
Yes.
Ano po ang policy nyo sa pagbibigay ng reward? I'll give an example. Pag may mahirap hulihin, biglang mag-a-announce ng reward ang palasyo o ang DILG. I mean, do you have standard policies on who gets to be included in the rewards list? How much will be placed on the head of each? Or is it arbitrarily done?
Well, as of now, it depends on the recommendations of the specific law enforcement agencies, among which is for instance, the National Bureau of Investigation. Sometimes it comes from the PNP also. So it depends on the type of crime, the degree of its impact to the community, and so forth and so on, Your Honor.
Out of curiosity, sir, would you know, is this taxable?
It's actually confidential in nature, Your Honor.
Precisely.
So
Nobody knows who you gave it to, but are they required to declare it?
it's a good question, Your Honor. Maybe we can check that, Your Honor. I'm not sure if it's taxable because the nature by which this is given is that it is confidential and precisely it's a reward. So you will not know who, even us, we don't really actually.
Who would know that?
Well, the operating people, Your Honor, normally.
Um,
And there are validations that are being made.
can a police officer or military officer or soldier be entitled to receive it? Is
No, Your
there
Honor.
such a limitation?
No, Your Honor. The government employees are not allowed to get those rewards.
Hindi pwede.
Pwede.
It's in a guideline somewhere?
We're not sure if there's a guidelines, but we can check, Your Honor.
Kindly check, sir, if indeed they're allowed. Financial assistance and subsidy, 90,425,000. Bandang baba na. This is most likely a lump sum too, but what kinds of assistance, sir? Yes, sir. I presume this is different from the PSF, di ba? May mga yung PSF eh, off-budget item yun.
PSF, yes, no, it's different. These are
How about this one?
usually the Office of the President normally gets some requests from various sectors, Your Honor, and most of which will involve some sort of an assistance to them, like
Like what?
NGOs asking for assistance on some projects that they want to implement. Sometimes the Office of the President gives out this.
Ganong klase, not medical assistance, not
No.
traveling expenses to be able to
No,
bring
no,
the
Your
kid
Honor.
to...
These are specific, sometimes very specific as to projects, Your Honor.
Not to assist the travel of an athlete who will compete abroad.
That will be included, Your Honor. In sometimes, pwede rin yan.
Pero yun,
It's
what will
just
be the
general-
guidelines for this? You have it?
We can provide you with the guidelines also.
Galing ng advice ni Mike palagi, we will provide eh. Kala mo, hindi namin hanapin yan, kaya nga on the record to eh. Senator Grace, you have some interventions?
I thought you needed a quorum today, Mr. Chair, but apparently you'll just suspend this hearing, so I'm fine.
Sayang naman, nandiyan si Jojo. Tagaling mo naman yung... If I may proceed to the COA report, sir. Again, this is usually what we do with all the agencies. Previous unliquidated from previous administrations is over 400 million. Not under your watch. What's being done about it, sir?
Well, before we proceed, may we furnish, Your Honor, we prepared some sort of a status report on that.
Unupdated,
As
based on the
updated.
2012 COA report.
Yes, Your Honor. May we,
Kindly submit that to us, sir.
yes.
Paki na lang.
May kopya ka ba?
So as of December 31, 2012, total due for liquidation is 447 plus million, of which 410 pertain to the accumulated balance from previous administrations. So a big chunk of that really belonged to the previous administrations, but may we know what's being done about it insofar as running after or making them liquidate
Well,
these unliquidated funds?
as His Honor advised in the previous hearings last year, Your Honor, and even before that, we already sent out demand letters to various, to all employees who may have incurred outstanding balances as to their cash advances, meaning unliquidated cash advances. And if we may go by the COA report, the total, we have two accounts actually, advances to officers and employees and advances to, saan yung isa? Two accounts, other receivables. Those two accounts are classified as account 148 and account 149. Account 148 refers to those amounts granted to officers and employees of the Office of the President for special purpose and time-bound undertakings like local and foreign travels and operational requirements of an office. While other receivables, those are amounts due from debtors not falling under any specific receivable accounts. And examples of these are cash advances granted to non-OP employees which include cash advances to PSG and for the Presidential Air Wing for their trainings, etc. The total amount as of December 31, 2012, yung total ng COA. Yung pareho. Total cash advance. Ito, 432.
447, sir.
Ha?
Any decision of the Secretary?
Is 447 million 702 plus thousand, Your Honor. And as of July 31, 2014, which is this year, Your Honor, the total amount liquidated is already 137 million, thereby leaving a total unliquidated cash advance of 310 million as of now. Now, if we break this down per administration, we have broken down this into three types only, meaning this administration, the previous administration, and then we classified all together, all the other administrations together. We will have, hindi nyo tinotal to. Yung Pinoy.
So total unliquidated is 310,600,901.55. Of
Ye-
which, how many pertains to past administrations?
Uh, dapat i-add mo yun eh. 209 plus 15, total 736. As far as this administration is concerned, the total unliquidated amount would be 445 plus, it's a little over 4 million, Your Honor.
4
Pesos.
million.
4 million.
Because PGMA time, 209 million.
Yes.
Other administrations, 96 million. Add that, subtract that from 310. It would leave a balance of roughly 4.
Yes, Your Honor. Tama ba? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Just a few more points. On the PSG, you have a PS of 40,551,000. I'm on page 34. Sweldo nino to nung PSG mismo Or aren't they receiving a salary from their respective units? AFP kung AFP, PNP kung PNP. So, kaninong sweldo po to? Sinong binabayaran natin dito? MO yun. PS eh. Nakalagay PS eh. Under MFO 4. Presidential Security and Close-in Functions. PS of 40,551. Who are we paying, sir? Ano? Hindi, sa budget mismo din.
This account includes
Offices under MFO 4.
offices under MFO4, which are, wait,
Presidential Executive Staff Services.
which includes protocol, correspondence. We have the Internal House Affairs Office. Then we have the Office of the
Special Assistant.
Special, ano ba, OSMA?
Office of the Special Assistant for the President.
No, OSMA.
Senior Military.
Office of the Senior Military Aid, and so forth, Your Honor.
So yung staff doon, hindi yung mga PSG mismo.
Hindi PSG mismo.
The PSG themselves get their salary from
They
their
only have,
respective units.
yes, Your Honor. They only have, we dedicated some MOE amount,
It's a mixed contingent, right? From
Yes.
Army, Navy,
and police.
Air Force, Police.
Everybody, yes.
One last point, still on the PSG. Do you have a policy as to the coverage of the PSG, meaning who they will actually secure? Clearly, it refers to the, if you talk of Secret Service, there's a well-defined function of the Secret Service in the US. The counterpart would be the PSG. Meron bang administrative order or any presidential issuance that would define the limitations ng PSG?
We have not encountered any written or formal guidelines on this, but what we know is that this is supposed to cover the official family of the president, Your Honor. The family, personal, and
Official.
yes.
How about the unofficial?
And you're gonna ask that. It's there's no unofficial, Your Honor, just the official.
I'm sorry? No, it's a valid question, really. For example, if the president is married and with children, clearly the wife and the children will be covered. The parents, if they're still alive, may be covered. The siblings, possibly too. Because the logic is you don't want the president to be thinking of their personal safety while governing. Di ba? Para matanggal na yun sa kanya. But in a unique situation that we have now, the president is ready, available, and willing to mingle. Would it be illegal, to say the least, if someone he is, for example, seeing on a long term would be covered by this one too? In other words, can the president assign PSG agents to someone who is not part of his official family, at least not yet? Are there any limitations on that? Because if there are none, actually the point I'm driving at is, don't you think it's about time either you do it by executive fiat or we do it by legislative fiat, preferably by executive fiat, to define these things clearly? Because in the United States, I studied it quite extensively. They're very detailed as to only who are entitled. And in fact, on certain private visits, they're not allowed to go. And if they would join the official there, they would have to foot the bill. They even have a rule on past presidents. Here, I think the only rule is you're assigned one security personnel, but that's quite unfair. So you might want to look into it, sir, and provide for it by executive fiat again, how this will be rationalized instead of leaving it up to Congress to do it. You might want to do it yourselves. At least it's within your domain.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll do that. But for His Honor's information,
Yes, sir.
PSG security covers the president and his immediate family, the vice president, the former presidents, visiting heads of state and heads of government, Your Honor.
Kasama yun.
That's the as broad as you can get, Your Honor.
That's found in.
But you're right, Your Honor. There must be some sort of a
The list you
clear
gave us,
guidelines on this.
That's based on tradition and practice, or
Yes.
is there a paper that says that?
I understand there's a presidential issuance to this effect, Your Honor. So we
Time,
can
submit that to us.
dig it up, Your Honor, for you.
Yes, please. One final point, Mr. Secretary. I will be faulted if I don't bring it up. The President opened up the possibility again of having either running or having a second term abroad. When the last thing he said before he left was he had hoped that it won't be him. What exactly is the position of the palace on this?
What I understand on a personal basis, Your Honor, is that the President will listen to his bosses, Your Honor. And that's what he has been saying all along. And we don't see any inconsistency in any of his statements, Your Honor.
I'm not saying there is an inconsistency, only that there is a possibility. Is that essentially, what if his bosses say, run? That's what he will do.
That's how I understand this statement, Your Honor.
If they say don't run, he won't do it.
That's how I understand the statement, Your Honor.
If they say amend the constitution so you can run again, he'll do it.
If that's what it will take to do it, then that will be the route that will be taken, Your Honor.
Just out of curiosity, how do we find out what his bosses want? I mean, how do we... I mean, short of a referendum, I mean, it's a difficult proposition, I understand. But it's a question, actually, that's difficult to answer as well. Have you thought of a question? I'm just trying to run the time down while Senator Grace is thinking of a question. She might as well ask immediately unless I think of other questions.
I think that's a more controversial closing.
Wala na. There being no further questions, unless you want to add to something, to anything that you've said so far. Wala ka nang gustong dagdag pang paliwanag? Subject and conditioned on the submission of the documents requested by the chair earlier on the details of some MOE and PS items, as well as CO items found in the proposed budget of the Office of the President. The same is hereby endorsed to plenary for its final action, deliberation, and approval.